The light falls in thin slants through narrow, high windows. Dust motes drift in the golden beams, moving almost imperceptibly. A monk sits at a worn wooden desk, his quill poised above a sheet of vellum. The air smells faintly of damp stone and ink outside. The forest hums in quiet persistence. The abbey is already surrendering to it. Moss clings to the walls. Tiny shoots push through cracks in the courtyard. He does not hurry. There is no urgency. Each stroke of ink across parchment is deliberate, measured. The letters form slowly, then linger, as if reluctant to depart the quill's tip. A crow calls somewhere beyond the tree line. Its voice carries over the low, steady drip of water from the roof. He listens for it briefly. Then his hand returns to the page. The abbey was not always like this. Centuries before, it would have echoed with the clang of hammers, the chanting of dozens of voices, the scrape of metal against stone. Now, only the occasional flutter of wings disturbs the silence. His eyes trace the margins of an unfinished psalm. He notices a vine creeping along the outer wall, its leaf brushing against the cold stone. He wonders when the last mason left, perhaps before his time. Perhaps the forest has always been patient. He sets down the quill. There is a moment of stillness, even inside. The wind moves through narrow gaps, stirring loose leaves that have drifted in from the courtyard. A shiver runs through the abbey's stones, and he feels the weight of centuries pressing down. In the scriptorium, light shifts slowly. Shadows lengthen across the floor. He turns the vellum slightly, catching the subtle texture of the ink as it dries. Each letter holds not just words, but the effort of hands that preceded him. And soon, perhaps, the forest will claim even these traces. The monk rises slowly, his joints stiff from hours of stillness. Outside, the sky has shifted to a pale grey, softening the forest's edges. The wind has grown cooler. It brushes against the abbey walls and carries the faint smell of damp earth. He walks to the window. His hand rests lightly on the cold stone sill. From here, he sees the courtyard, where small saplings push between the cobblestones. He notes the way the moss spreads like a thin green carpet over the worn stones. Even the threshold of the abbey doorway is softened by sprouting weeds. The forest does not hurry. It has patience measured in decades, centuries. He, too, moves slowly, but differently. His pace is counted in letters, in chapters, in hours. He listens to the gentle friction of quill against vellum. Each sound marks the passage of time more precisely than any clock could. He returns to his desk. Ink pots glimmer faintly in the filter light. He dips his quill, noticing the way the liquid gathers at the tip before spreading in small, deliberate lines across the parchment. Mistakes are rare, for he is careful, but when they occur, they linger in the mind. A blot of ink is a reminder that even small actions carry weight. A robin lands on a nearby branch, its tiny claws gripping the bark. Its song is brief, hesitant, almost as if it too is aware of the quiet reverence of this place. He watches it for a moment, then returns to the letters on his page. The abbey is larger than his room. Corridors extend into shadowed corners where sunlight rarely reaches. Columns rise to arches carved long ago, now softened by years of exposure. Here and there, stones are cracked, edges rounded by wind and rain. The forest has begun to encroach even through the narrow windows. Leaves drift inside with each gust, settling on benches on the floor. On open manuscripts, he works steadily. Hours pass unnoticed, measured only by the slow, subtle change of light. The forest outside shifts too, though imperceptibly branches lean closer to the abbey walls. Roots push at foundation stones. The monk writes, aware of this quiet invasion but unmoved. There is a rhythm here, a harmony between human persistence and natural reclamation. At midday, he pauses. The ink dries in faint shades of brown, and he lifts his head to breathe. The room is silent except for the occasional distant rustle of leaves. He closes his eyes for a moment. In the darkness behind his lids, he pictures the Abbey in its earliest days, voices echoing through the corridors, candles flickering along stone walls. And yet, the present is quiet still. He opens his eyes to the parchment again. Each stroke of his quill is an act of presence, a quiet assertion that time, though relentless, can be marked in small, careful gestures outside. The forest continues its patient work inside. The Abbey preserves human thought. Both exist simultaneously, each unhurried in its own way. Evening descends slowly. Shadows lengthen across the floorland. Walls. The monk pauses to observe the sky through the narrow windows. Grey clouds drift above, tinged faintly with the last light of day. The wind carries a distant scent of pine and wet earth. He notes it, then returns to his work by the candlelight. Letters glow softly on the vellum. The flickering flame casts wavering shadows across the rough-hewn desk. Time stretches differently here, measured not in minutes, but in the delicate balance of light and shadow, the quiet persistence of hands at work, and the inevitable, slow advance of the forest beyond. Winter begins quietly. The Abbey's walls are chilled, the stone absorbing the frost that creeps in through cracks in the windows. Outside, the forest is muted, bare branches etched against a grey sky. Snow falls lightly, settling on roof tiles and the tangled branches of saplings pressing against the Abbey walls. The monk dresses carefully. Layers of rough wool and linen cling to him, guarding against the damp cold. His hands, stiff from the chill, flex slowly as he lifts the quill. He warms them briefly over a small brazier before returning to the vellum. Each letter forms more slowly now, deliberate and careful, like the pacing of winter itself. The air smells of smoke, wet wood, and the faint tang of ink. He listens to the crackle of embers in the hearth and the occasional drip of water from the roof. It is a quiet rhythm, broken only by the wind shaking loose a flake of frost against the window pane. A visitor arrives, a traveller, weary and cloaked, pauses in the courtyard. The monk notes the prints left in the snow, the small disturbances in the otherwise untouched path. He does not speak immediately. The traveller nods once, bows slightly, and moves toward the Abbey's door. Silence fills the space between them. And then the traveller disappears into the shadowed corridors. The monk watches for a moment, aware that even brief human presence leaves an imprint, however fleeting. Back at his desk, he resumes his work. Winter light is faint and grey, spilling weakly across the vellum. Each stroke of ink seemed sharper in the dim illumination. Outside, the forest waits patiently. Branches lean toward the Abbey, snow accumulating where moss has already softened the edges of stone. Roots push quietly beneath walls, unseen but insistent. Days pass, snow melts and returns, leaving thin icy sheets over the courtyard. The monk observes this cycle with quiet attention. He notes the way. Light fractures across frozen puddles. He listens to the subtle hiss of melting water against stone. There is a rhythm to it, slow and deliberate, mirrored in the motion of his hand over parchment. Spring arrives almost imperceptibly. Moss deepens in color, shoots of green stretch skyward. And the sound of running water grows louder as the snow recedes. Birds return. Their calls fill the Abbey grounds, startling in contrast to the long silence of winter. The monk pauses occasionally, listening, letting the notes of their song fill his mind before returning to the careful work of letters and Pages inside. The abbey begins to warm. Candles are no longer the sole source of light. Sunlight creeps across floors, tracing long paths along the stone and illuminating centuries of dust. The monk opens doors to the courtyard, letting the scent of earth and new leaves drift in. It is a reminder that the abbey is part of a larger world, one that moves independently of human attention. Animals take notice of the absence of constant activity. A fox trots along the perimeter walls. Small birds nest in corners of the roof, their presence marked only by the soft rustle of wings or the faint tapping of beaks. The monk watches without interfering. He understands that the forest's return is quiet, not violent. Every creeping vine, every root pressing against stone, is a patient claim rather than an attack. Summer brings warmth, and with it a different kind of quiet labor. The monk rises earlier. Sunlight stretches across the scriptorium in long, shifting patterns. Bees hum faintly at the edges of open windows. He works steadily, pausing occasionally to inspect the edges of manuscripts, to smooth vellum, to brush dust from letters. The forest has advanced further. Branches push through gaps in the walls. Ferns grow along thresholds. In some places, stone has softened from centuries of moisture. The monk does not attempt to hold it. Instead, he adapts his movements, shifting his materials, adjusting seating, ranging pages away from damp corners. There is a patience here that mirrors the forest's own. In these long, quiet days, he reflects on impermanence. Words fade into ink. Ink fades into parchment. Parchment will one day decay. Yet the act of writing, of recording, becomes a counterpoint to this impermanence. It is small, fragile, but enduring in its own way. And so he continues, season after season, attentive to the subtle dance of human care and natural return. Evening comes, light softens to amber, then fades entirely. The monk extinguishes the candles one by one. Silence descends over the abbey and forest alike. Only the faint creak of trees and the distant call of a night bird interrupt the stillness. He pauses, breath slow, hands folded. Outside, the forest leans closer each day. Inside, his work persists. Both exist in parallel, measured in different rhythms. Yet neither dominates. Both endure. Dawn drives quietly over the Irish hills. The abbey is wrapped in a pale, misty light. Stones are cool beneath bare feet. The monk rises, stretching slowly, listening to the soft hush of morning. Outside, dew glistens on moss and fallen leaves. A thin frost still lingers in shaded corners, reflecting faintly in the new day. His morning begins with ritual. Hands washed in cold water drawn from the well. Careful attention to the order of robes and cords. The abbey's silence is broken only by the distant drip of water from the roof and the occasional rustle of a small animal making its way along the walls. Each motion is deliberate, an echo of centuries of monastic habit. Prayer follows. The monk kneels, head bowed, hands folded over worn fabric. His voice, low and steady, intones words that have been spoken here for decades, perhaps centuries. In this dim, quiet space, sound travels differently, absorbed by stone, softened by echoes. He allows pauses between phrases, feeling the silence in between. Meals are modest, prepared with care and attention. Bread baked from coarse grain, water drawn from the well, herbs gathered from the small courtyard garden. He sits quietly to eat, listening to the wind in the treetops and the occasional call of a bird. No hurry, no distraction. Each bite is part of the rhythm of daily life. Cleaning the scriptorium comes next. Dust is brushed from the floor, cobwebs removed from corners, ink splatters smoothed or discarded. The monk moves carefully, aware of the fragility of the manuscripts. aware that each gesture preserves knowledge even as the forest presses closer. Sunlight drifts through windows, catching the edge of vellum, illuminating the faded brown ink. Work resumes, the quill moves across the page. Letters forming with precision. Margins are measured, spacing considered. He notices small details, the texture of the parchment, the subtle scent of drying ink, the sound of the quill's nib across the surface. Outside, moss pushes further into cracks. Roots pry at foundation stones. Tiny birds flit among branches brushing the abbey walls. The forest's advance is almost imperceptible. A vine curls along the windowsill. Leaves drift across the floor. In the courtyard, saplings lean toward the stone, reaching as if seeking light, warmth, or simply space. The monk observes these small changes without alarm. Each is a reminder that time moves on. Independent of human care, afternoon brings lessons in quiet patience. The monk examines older manuscripts, repairing fragile pages. He notes marginalia written by hands long gone. Some words are smudged, letters faint. He traces them lightly with his finger, feeling the weight of past attention, aware that he too is adding his own hand to a lineage of care. Historical context is present in every stone and artifact. The abbey was built decades before, a center of learning and faith. The walls have withstood storms, raids, and long stretches of neglect. Manuscripts preserved here include psalms, chronicles, and medical texts. Each page is a link to a past where literacy was rare, where knowledge was held carefully and guarded closely. Evening returns with the gentle dimming of light. Candles are lit once more. Their glow soft against the rough-hewn wood and stone. Shadows dance along the floor. Outside, the forest leans closer. The wind rustling leaves and stirring branches against walls. The monk pauses in the doorway, breathing in the cool night air, listening to distant owls, to the creak of timber settling, to the whisper of the earth reclaiming its own. Night deepens. He sits once again at his desk, quill in hand. Each stroke is slow now. Deliberate, the forest waits beyond the walls. Within, human effort persists, quiet but unbroken. Letters, pages, light and shadow all exist in delicate balance in this space. Time is measured not in hours or days, but in the gentle rhythm of ritual, labor, and observation. The abbey sleeps. Almost completely. Only the wind, the distant bird, the soft drip of water mark the passage of time. And yet, in the stillness, there is a resonance, a quiet dialogue between human care and natural return, a meditation that extends across centuries. Even as the forest slowly claims what once was built. Rain falls softly outside, tapping on the roof tiles and drumming gently against the stone courtyard. Each drop echoes in the empty corridors, mingling with the faint sound of wind through the trees. The forest seems to lean closer, its presence both patient and persistent. The monk watches from a narrow window, the glass mottled with streaks of water. Light is diffused, softening the edges of stone, blurring the lines between abbey and forest. He notices the subtle movement of branches, the slight sway of moss, the way puddles form in worn depressions in the courtyard floor. Inside, the scriptorium smells faintly of wet earth and ink. He dips the quill carefully, mindful of the moisture in the air. Letters form slowly, absorbing the rhythm of the storm outside. Each word becomes a quiet act of endurance, a trace of human presence against the slow, inevitable advance of nature. A visit arrives. Not a pilgrim this time, but a messenger from a distant village. Cloaked and mud-streaked, he carries a small bundle of letters. They are exchanged silently. The monk nods, acknowledging the world beyond the abbey, though he remains largely untouched by it. The visitor departs as quietly as he arrived, leaving footprints in the wet courtyard that will soon be erased by wind and rain. The forest continues its patient work. Roots push beneath stone thresholds. Vines twist along window sills. Small ferns unfurl where light filters through broken tiles. Even in storm, the advance is quiet, unhurried, deliberate. The monk observes without attempting to stop it. His task is preservation. Not resistance. He records. He writes. He tends what remains. Time passes slowly. The monk pauses to reflect on the manuscripts he has copied over the years. Some texts are fragile, pages curling at the edges, ink fading. Others are stronger, the work of earlier scribes enduring despite centuries of exposure. Each page is a testament to persistence, small yet enduring against the vast span of time. As night falls, the storm eases. Water drips from eaves, leaves shimmer in the moonlight, and the abbey breathes quietly, stone and timber settling after the rain. The monk lights a candle, its soft glow illuminating the delicate lines of his work. He notices the subtle changes in the manuscripts, the slight warping of pages, the way ink absorbs differently in damp air. In the silence that follows, he thinks of the past. Voices long gone echo faintly in his mind, carrying prayers, laughter, footsteps across stone floors. The forest holds memory too, though in a different form. The imprint of fallen trees, the shape of roots against walls, the spread of moss across abandoned thresholds. Both human and natural histories coexist here, overlapping yet distinct. A fox passes quietly along the outer walls, its fur damp from the rain. Owls call from the trees, their voices distant, patient, unhurried. The monk pauses, listening. There is a rhythm to the world beyond the abbey, and a rhythm within, his own heartbeat. The scratching of quill, the drip of water all form part of this quiet continuum. He reflects on impermanence. Even stone erodes, even ink fades, even words once held as sacred may vanish with time. And yet, in every act of writing, in every careful stroke of quill, there is a trace of human effort that persists, however briefly, alongside the enduring slow work of the forest. By the time the night is deep, the abbey is almost invisible in the shadows. Only the faint candlelight and the echo of the monk's presence remain. Outside, the forest has reclaimed small sections of the courtyard. Inside, human intention continues quietly, carefully. Measured by light, ink, and time, the monk lays down his quill, breath slow, eyes closing. He listens to the faint movements of the world round him. There is no urgency. There is only persistence. There is only observation. There is only the quiet, unbroken rhythm of life and decay, human and natural, entwined. Autumn arrives quietly. The leaves of the surrounding forest shift in muted tones of gold, amber, and russet. Each gust of wind carries a gentle rustle. As though the trees are whispering their own quiet prayers, the abbey itself is wrapped in this. Transformation, moss darkens, ivy deepens in color, and roots press more insistently against stones loosened by centuries. The monk rises early, aware that light grows shorter each day. Dawn is softer now, spilling weakly across the scriptorium. Frost appears in the corners, delicate crystals that glitter faintly before vanishing with the warmth of the day. He pauses to watch, noticing how impermanence reveals itself even in small, transient forms. Bird song thins, sparrows and finches have moved south, leaving only the hardier crows and the occasional owl. The forest is quieter, more deliberate. A fox pauses in the courtyard, ears twitching. Eyes alert, the monk notes its movements, appreciating the careful balance of vigilance and ease in its steps. Daily rituals continue. Hands are washed in colder water. Robes feel heavier with moisture and the chill. Candles are lit earlier. Meals are warm and simple. Bread, rude vegetables, a thin soup. Each act is measured. Nothing is hurried. The abbey itself seems to slow along with the season, each stone and beam adjusting to the cold and the lengthening shadows. The manuscripts are inspected carefully, pages brittle from the fluctuating temperature, ink faint in places. The monk traces each letter with his eyes, then with gentle hands, preserving and recording, adding to the slow continuum of effort outside. Vines press against windows, leaves collect along thresholds. Each day, the forest's presence becomes more tangible. It has time on its side, infinite patience. Working quietly as the abbey ages, he walks through the cloisters, noting cracks along arches and stones loosened by frost. Small ferns push through crevices, and a thin layer of moss carpets sections of the floor. The wind carries distant scents of damp, leaves and decaying wood. He touches the walls, feeling their roughness, aware that human craftsmanship is subject to the same impermanence as the trees themselves. Evening brings long shadows. Candles flicker, light dancing across worn wood and cold stone. The forest is nearly silent now, only the occasional creak of a branch, the distant call of an owl, or the rustle of a small animal venturing out to forage. The monk sits in the quiet, listening, letting the rhythm of life outside match the rhythm within. Memory comes more sharply in autumn. He recalls voices from long ago, the monks who first walked these halls, the scribes who inked manuscripts before him. He reflects on the continuity of effort, the small traces of human presence that endure even as stone crumbles and forests reclaim the edges of the abbey. A crow lands briefly on a rooftop, silhouetted against a sky muted by approaching twilight. The monk watches its stillness, considering the patience inherent in the natural world. The forest does not rush, neither does he. They exist in parallel, each observing time in its own way, each leaving impressions upon the other. Night falls early. Frost forms along the edges of windows, a delicate lacework illuminated faintly by candlelight. He returns to the scriptorium, quill poised, tracing words that may endure, that may fade. Outside, the forest stretches into darkness, infinite and persistent. Inside, human effort continues, measured, deliberate, gentle. The abbey breathes with the slow rhythm of change. Wood creaks, stone settles, moss spreads, roots pry, letters dry, pages cull. The monk writes on, each stroke a meditation on impermanence, continuity, and the quiet persistence of life against the backdrop of inevitable change. Winter deepens, dawn drives slowly, pale and diffuse, spilling faint light across snow-covered stones. The abbey is quiet. Wrapped in frost, each roof tile holds a thin layer of ice. Cobblestones glimmer beneath delicate sheets of frozen water. Outside, the forest is still, branches etched sharply against the grey sky. Heavy with snow, the monk moves carefully along the corridors, boots crunching softly over thin layers of frost and snow. His breath rises in faint clouds. Each exhalation reminds him of the fragile warmth of life. His hands, roughened by work and cold, flex slowly as he lifts the quill, dipping it in ink thickened slightly by chill. The scriptorium is dim. Candle flames dance, casting wavering light against the stone walls. Frost creeps along the windows, intricate patterns that shift subtly as the sun rises, yet never fully banishing the cold. He pauses, tracing the edge of a manuscript with a finger, feeling the texture of vellum hardened by winter air. Outside, the forest claims space with quiet patience. Snow rests on branches, weighing them gently. Roots press beneath stones loosened by frost and moisture. A fox moves along the perimeter, its coat thick and damp, leaving tracks that will soon be erased by drifting snow. Owls call distantly, Voices softened by the thickening silence, the monk reflects on mortality. Winter is a mirror of human life, stark and unadorned. Every manuscript he copies, every careful stroke of ink, is an attempt to leave a tracer small defiance of impermanence. Yet even these traces may vanish, lost to time, consumed by moisture or decay still. The act itself endures, a quiet assertion that human thought and effort matter. If only for a fleeting moment. Meals are sparse and warmed by the small hearth, root vegetables, bread. Water thickened with the faint scent of herbs, the ritual of eating is slow, each bite is measured. Each sip of water acknowledged. Even sustenance becomes an act of observation, an attunement to rhythm and necessity. The abbey groans under the weight of winter, snow presses on beams, ice forms along corners, and frost seeps into cracks in the stone. The monk touches each surface with care. Aware of the slow stress the season imposes, vines and moss, though dormant, are poised to return with spring, creeping again where light permits. Hours pass, measured only by shifting candlelight and the subtle change in daylight. The quill scratches across vellum, letters forming deliberately, slowly. Each word is an effort to assert presence, to resist the erasure of time, to participate in a continuum of care that extends centuries into the past and, perhaps, centuries forward. A rabbit moves through the snow outside the wall, small footprints punctuating the white blanket. The monk observes, appreciating the quiet perseverance of life even in harsh conditions. The forest is patient. It waits for no one, yet it moves gently round human efforts, intertwining existence with a rhythm older than memory. Evening deepens, candlelight flickering. Snow falls again, heavier now, muffling sound, cloaking the abbey in soft white. He pauses to look through the frost-patterned windows, imagining the abbey centuries hence, perhaps unoccupied, slowly returned to the forest, and yet. The manuscripts, the walls, the stone may persist in echoes. Every careful stroke of ink, every movement of hand and thought leaves a trace. He closes his eyes briefly, listening to the faint wind, the distant call of an owl, the soft drift of snow against stone. Winter and human effort exist together here, separate yet intertwined, each measured in its own rhythm. The abbey, the forest, the manuscripts, and the monk's quiet persistence form a continuum, unbroken, patient, deliberate. Night deepens, candles gutter low, the monk lays down the quill. Breath slow, steady. The snow presses against walls. The forest waits beyond, inside. Quiet human presence endures outside. The world waits patiently. Both exist together, in a still rhythm that stretches beyond thought. Winter begins to loosen its grip. Light stretches longer across the abbey, softer, warmer. Snow melts in thin sheets along the roof tiles. Dripping steadily into the courtyard below, tiny rivulets run across stone, glinting in the morning sun, carrying fragments of frost and ice toward the edges of the forest. The monk moves carefully along the corridors. Stone is damp, cool beneath his feet. Vines that were brittle in winter now glisten with moisture, unfurling slowly toward the growing light. Moss deepens in green, thickening along walls and floor corners. He pauses, noticing the smallest changes, the soft push of new life where only dormancy existed before. Birdsong returns gradually. Sparrows flit along window sills. A blackbird perches briefly on the edge of a roof. Its song muted but persistent. The monk listens, allowing the rhythm of nature's return to enter the quiet spaces of the abbey, even the faintest. Sound seems amplified in contrast to the long silence of winter. Work resumes, the quill scratches across vellum, letters forming with deliberate care. Each page is heavier now with months of accumulated practice. His eyes trace the lines, absorbing the rhythm of words and ink. In the courtyard, soil softens. Small shoots break through the frost-hardened ground, and the forest encroaches with patient resilience. The Abbey shows subtle signs of age and adaptation. Roof tiles sag where beams have shifted under winter's weight. Stones along the cloisters are loose, edges softened by water and frost. The monk adjusts seating, moves manuscripts to drier corners, smooths curling pages. His care is quiet, respectful, deliberate, an acknowledgement of both human fragility and natural persistence. Even in these small adaptations, there is reflection. The Abbey itself is a record of time, human and natural. Every crack, every patch of moss, every repaired page carries history. The monk traces the edges of older manuscripts, touching letters written by hands long gone. Memory lives in these pages, preserved in small gestures that bridge centuries. Outside, small animals emerge. A hare pauses near the courtyard wall, ears erect, observing. Birds gather at moss-covered thresholds. The forest is patient, watching, encroaching slowly yet persistently. Each plant, each animal, each creeping vine is part of the silent dialogue between the natural world and the Abbey's human. Caretakers, the monk steps into the courtyard, feeling damp earth beneath his boots. He notes the shift in light, the scent of thawing soil, the delicate warmth in the air. Branches are heavy with new leaves, small buds appearing where winter left only bare twigs. Life returns gradually, subtly, as it always does. Throughout the day, he continues his work, alternating between manuscript care, observation, and moments of quiet reflection. He pauses frequently, listening to distant birdsong, the soft rush of water, the whisper of wind through the treetops. There is a rhythm here, slow and unbroken, measured not in hours but in awareness of change. Evening approaches, shadows lengthen. Stretching across stone floors and moss-covered thresholds, the Abbey feels both renewed and aged. Light filters through windows, highlighting curling pages and weathered beams. The forest beyond appears dense, patient, eternal. The monk stops his work, hands folded, breath steady, outside. The forest continues its slow advance, carrying roots, vines, and life into spaces once dominated by stone and human intention. Inside, the Abbey holds centuries of human presence, carefully recorded, preserved. Both exist together, in parallel, in dialogue without words. Night descends, candles flicker, illuminating vellum and ink. The monk listens to the subtle sounds of renewal, dripping water, rustling branches, distant birds preparing to sleep. He feels a quiet continuity, a patient entrance. Seasons change, years pass, manuscripts age, yet persistence, human and natural, remains, gentle and deliberate. Spring deepens. Light stretches across the Abbey earlier, warmer now, brushing gold onto cold stone. The courtyard hums softly with life, moss spread thickly, carpeting stone thresholds. Vines curl round window frames, reaching toward sun and sky. Petals drift quietly from the forest edge, settling upon worn pots and scattered leaves. The monk rises with the morning. The air carries scents of damp earth, flowering trees, and fresh growth. His breath rises in misty coals. Hands are warmed by careful rubbing, preparing for the day's work. The quill waits at the ready, poised over vellum that has absorbed years of ink. Careful care and observation. The forest outside is vibrant. Birds call insistently, wings brushing against branches. Insects hum faintly along the damp moss. A fox moves quietly along the perimeter walls, its coat mottled with spring mud. Rabbits emerge from burrows, pausing to nibble tender shoots. Every movement, small and deliberate, is part of the rhythm of renewal. Inside, the Abbey feels alive yet ancient. Stone floors are darkened by spring moisture. Beams creak subtly under their own weight. Roof tiles sag where winter pressed hardest. The monk adjusts manuscripts, smoothing curling pages, brushing dust, and preserving fragile edges. He works slowly, each motion deliberate, each stroke of ink measured against the quiet rush of nature outside. A traveller appears briefly at the Abbey gate, a messenger bearing letters and small parcels, mud. Tracks mark his passage. He nods once, briefly. Before retreating into the forest path, the monk notes the visitor, but does not interrupt his work. Human presence is fleeting. The forest and Abbey endure. Sunlight drifts through windows, illuminating vellum with warm, honeyed light. Shadows shift with the passage of hours. Marking time in subtle, almost imperceptible ways, the monk observes this shifting rhythm, aware that each day is both repetition and change. The forest outside follows its own patterns, roots pressing through cracks, buds unfurling, branches stretching. He pauses to breathe, hands resting on the desk, eyes closed briefly. He listens, water dripping from newly softened eaves, the rustle of branches, the faint call of birds. Even the faintest sounds are amplified in this quiet space. He considers the manuscripts before him, each page a connection to past monks, scribes long gone. They are kept preserved in ink and parchment. Afternoon passes slowly. Bees drift into open windows, settling on flowers pressed into small vases. Sunlight glimmers across letters, highlighting the subtle brown of ink against parchment. The monk works steadily, alternating between copying texts, repairing older manuscripts, and observing the changing forest. There is no rush, only awareness, deliberate attention. Patience. He reflects on continuity and impermanence. Life outside the Abbey flows and returns with seasons. Life inside is marked by ink and paper, stone and timber. Both persist, differently, each leaving impressions upon the other. The forest will reclaim more. The Abbey will endure longer than any single visitor or monk. Every careful stroke of the quill, every adjusted manuscript, every swept corridor is a testament to quiet persistence. Evening draws near. Light softens timber, brushing moss and stone. Shadows stretch, curling along walls and floors. The Abbey hums with a quiet energy. Alive in stillness, outside. Buds open further. Leaves tremble in soft wind. Small animals pause briefly before moving again through the growing forest. The monk sets down the quill, breath slow, steady. Candlelight flickers along vellum and desk. He looks to the forest, now thick with spring growth. The Abbey, the manuscripts. The forest all exist together in delicate balance, measured not by hours or days, but by attentiveness, by care, by the slow, persistent rhythm of life. Night settles softly. The forest darkens but does not disappear. Its presence is patient, enduring. The Abbey sleeps lightly, preserving centuries of human effort, awaiting the next day of quiet observation. The next stroke of quill. Human effort and natural persistence move together, separate yet intertwined, in rhythms that neither rush nor halt, stretching beyond memory, beyond thought. Summer arrives fully. Light stretches long across the Abbey, warm and golden. Stone surfaces absorb heat from the sun, radiating slowly into shadowed corners. Vines thick with leaves climb the walls, their tendrils reaching toward the sky. Moss is deep, spongy underfoot, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and sun-warmed stone. The monk rises early. As always, the air is already warm, carrying scents of flowering trees, herbs, and sun-baked earth. He pauses at the doorway, listening to the forest, alive with the hum of bees, the call of birds, the rustle of small animals moving through undergrowth. Even in heat, the world moves deliberately, patiently, measured by its own rhythms. Inside, the scriptorium is bathed in light, Manuscripts lie open, pages curling slightly in the warmth. The quill moves smoothly across parchment. Ink drying quickly in the sun-warm air, he pauses occasionally, brushing away dust or debris. Adjusting fragile pages, every motion is deliberate, a continuation of the slow lineage of care that has spanned centuries. The forest presses close, its presence undeniable, birds nest in the Abbey's crevices. Foxes patrol the edges of the courtyard, and insects hum among the vines creeping through windows. Roots push subtly against stone, expanding cracks left from frost and rain. The Abbey accommodates, bending slightly to the persistence of life outside. While human effort continues quietly within, a visitor appears briefly, a trader from a nearby village. Carrying a bundle of herbs and parchment, mud streaks his boots. He bows slightly before departing, leaving faint impressions in the soft soil of the courtyard. The monk notes his passage, but does not break the rhythm of work. Human presence is temporary. The forest endures, the Abbey endures, manuscripts endure. The monk walks slowly through the cloisters. Feeling the warm stone beneath his hands, he observes small changes. Cracks widen slightly. Moss thickened in shaded corners, small ferns pushing where moisture has collected. Sunlight falls at shifting angles, highlighting the edges of manuscripts and the intricate work of earlier scribes. Light, shadow, stone, and ink exist together in quiet balance. Meals are simple, prepared with care. Bread, garden herbs, and water drawn from the well. Each bite is deliberate, an extension of the Abbey's slow rhythm. He pauses often, listening to the sounds of life outside. The soft patter of insects, the distant movement of animals, the whisper of leaves in wind. Even sustenance becomes part of observation. Part of meditation. Time flows differently in summer. Days stretch long, shadows move slowly. Across floors, the monk reflects on continuity. The Abbey has endured for decades. Manuscripts preserved through generations, forest and human presence coexist, intersecting without conflict. Both claim space. Both leave traces. One grows and shifts. One preserves and observes together. They mark the passage of years with gentle persistence. Evening falls late. Candles are lit to supplement fading light. The forest darkens gradually, its presence tangible in shadows and rustling leaves. A fox pauses briefly at the courtyard edge, then disappears into undergrowth. Owls call softly from distant trees. The monk continues his work. The quill scratching across parchment, letters forming slowly, deliberately, persistently. Night deepens, the Abbey settles under the warm summer sky. Stone radiates residual heat. Moss and vines remain thick and alive. The forest rests lightly, though it never truly sleeps. Always moving in quiet cycles of growth and renewal, the monk closes his eyes briefly. Hands folded, listening to this slow and broken rhythm, he contemplates the persistence of life and human effort alike. Manuscripts, stone, ink, and timber endure alongside roots, leaves, and animal trails. Time moves gently, yet inexorably. Both human and natural worlds intersect here. Measured in small gestures, a careful stroke of the quill, a branch pressed against a wall. A fox pausing to observe the Abbey's stillness. The summer night is warm, quiet, and patient. Candlelight flickers across vellum. The monk's breath is steady. Outside, the forest waits. Inside, human presence continues. Both persist. Entwined yet distinct. Measured not by urgency, but by careful, deliberate attention. Both endure. Late summer drifts slowly toward autumn. The light softens, taking on a more muted tone. Warmth remains, but shadows grow longer, stretching across stone floors and moss-covered thresholds. The Abbey feels older now, worn subtly by months of sun, rain, and wind. The monk moves carefully through the scriptorium. Manuscripts lie open, pages curling slightly at the edges from summer warmth. Ink appears more vivid against the thickening parchment. He touches each letter, tracing the careful work of scribes long gone, considering the small traces that survive despite centuries of change. Outside, the forest begins its quiet shift. Leaves carry hints of red, amber, and gold. Subtle yet unmistakable, moss remains deep green, thickened by summer rain. While ferns and small shoots emerge in damp corners, roots press gently against stone, and tiny flowers persist in shaded nooks. Adding color to the weathered courtyard, animals are attentive. Birds gather in small flocks, moving between trees and abbey walls. A fox pauses at the edge of the courtyard, watching briefly before disappearing into undergrowth. Insects hum in the late warmth, their wings catching the light before dusk falls. Each presence is quiet yet insistent, a reminder that life moves steadily alongside human activity. The abbey itself bears subtle evidence of seasonal entrance. Roof tiles sag in places, warped by heat and rain. Cracks along cloister arches widen slowly. Moss and ivy press into gaps. Following the steady rhythm of growth, the monk observes these changes carefully, adjusting manuscripts, smoothing edges, and noting areas that will require attention in colder months. Reflections grow longer as summer wanes. He considers the manuscripts he has preserved, the small traces of human care etched into every page. Each letter, every stroke of ink, connects him to generations of scribes, monks, and caretakers who moved through these halls. Time is measured not only in days, but in effort, in attention. In the deliberate act of keeping what endures, evening falls gently. Light fades into muted amber, filtering through leaves and moss. Shadows stretch across stone floors and timber beams. The forest leans closer, patient and persistent, yet never hurried. Roots press, vines creep, and animals move softly along hidden paths. The abbey exists alongside this advance, neither dominating nor succumbing fully. Balanced in quiet equilibrium, meals are simple, taken slowly. Bread, rude vegetables, and water from the well. Each act is deliberate, an extension of meditation. The monk listens, distant rustle of leaves, faint drip of water from eaves, soft calls of birds settling for the night. Even ordinary actions are imbued with awareness, connecting human presence to the larger rhythms of the world. Night descends fully. Candlelight flickers along manuscripts and walls, highlighting letters and faded illustrations. The abbey is silent but alive. Outside, the forest stretches dark and patient, waiting, enduring, moving in quiet cycles. The monk pauses, reflecting on legacy and impermanence. Human effort is small against the vast sweep of nature, yet it leaves traces deliberate, careful, persistent. He kneels briefly, hands folded over manuscripts, breath steady. The abbey, the manuscripts. The forest all persist. Time moves slowly, measured by observation, attention, and care. The monk feels the rhythm of centuries pressing softly round him, human and natural presence intertwined, neither hurried, neither fleeting, both enduring in delicate balance. Night deepens. Shadows merge. The abbey settles into stillness. Outside, roots press, vines stretch, and small animals move unseen. Inside, human effort persists quietly, deliberately, gently. A continuation of centuries-long practice. Both exist together, in slow harmony, a dialogue without words, stretching beyond memory, beyond thought. Mid-autumn arrives quietly. The forest blazes with muted golds, deep reds, and ochre tones. Leaves drift slowly from branches, spinning and settling upon stone thresholds, moss-covered courtyards, and worn paths. Each falling leaf is deliberate, is small testament to the passage of time. The monk rises in dim, Grey light, frost appears in shaded corners overnight. Delicate patterns forming along stone edges. The air is cooler, carrying the faint scent of damp soil, decaying leaves, and distant wood smoke. He draws his road closer, stepping carefully across floors that are damp from morning dew and the first hints of frost. Inside, the scriptorium is quiet. Shadows stretching long across vellum and ink. Manuscripts lie open, pages curling slightly at the edges. The quill moves with measured care, letters forming slowly in rhythm with the shortening days. The act of writing becomes almost ritual, each stroke deliberate, a meditation in time outside. The forest deepens in color and sound. Leaves fall in soft showers, small animals move busily. Through undergrowth, preparing for colder nights, a fox pauses at the edge of the courtyard, ears alert, before disappearing silently. Birds gather in small groups, their calls sharper in the cooler air. The monk listens to this subtle chorus, allowing the rhythm of the natural world to inform his own attention and care. The abbey bears the gentle marks of seasonal change. Roof tiles sag in places. Cracks along arches are slightly wider from summer heat and rainfall. Moss thickens in shaded corners. Vines press gently into stonework, curling along edges and seeping into gaps. The monk notes these changes, adjusting manuscripts to avoid dampness, smoothing pages, and ensuring fragile text is preserved through the coming cold. Reflection grows deeper in autumn. He considers the manuscripts he preserves, the centuries of human effort that preceded him. Each letter, each carefully copied word is a trace, a small defiance of impermanence. Yet he recognizes the inevitability of change. Stones erode. Ink fades, forests reclaim slowly, patiently, relentlessly. Preservation is effort, observation is attention. Both are acts of quiet endurance. Meals are sparse, warmed by a small fire, bread, root, vegetables, and water. Each bite is deliberate. Even ordinary acts of sustenance are imbued with quiet awareness. He listens to the sounds of the abbey and the forest outside. Dripping water, rustling leaves, the faint calls of distant animals. All movements are part of the slow rhythm that encompasses life within and beyond the abbey walls. Evening arrives earlier. Light softens to amber, filtering through colored leaves and moss-laden windows. Shadows stretch across floors, curling along manuscripts and stonework. Outside, leaves continue to fall, brushing against the abbey walls, brushing along pathways, marking the passage of time with gentle insistence. He pauses, hands folded over manuscripts, eyes tracing faint patterns in ink, breath steady. Thought drifts to the centuries of monks who walked these halls, scribes who labored in similar light, preserving words and ideas against decay. The forest presses close, patient and enduring, carrying leaves, roots, and small animals in its quiet cycles. Night deepens, candlelight flickers against vellum and timber beams. The abbey settles into stillness, stone and moss pressing softly beneath the weight of centuries. Outside, leaves accumulate. Small animals rest, and the forest waits patiently. Human effort continues within, deliberate, attentive, gentle a trace of care, a rhythm in harmony with the natural world. Both persist, both endure, the abbey and the forest, manuscripts and moss. Quill and root, human and natural effort intertwined yet distinct. Measured not by urgency, but by careful observation, deliberate attention and slow, persistent rhythm. Late autumn slips quietly into early winter. The forest beyond the abbey is bare now. Branches stand dark and skeletal against a pale, grey sky. Leaves that once colored the air have fallen in thick layers, muffling sound, carpeting the forest floor, and brushing against stone thresholds. Frost glints along edges of moss and stone, delicate and precise. The monk moves slowly through the abbey, his breath rising in soft clouds in the cold morning air. Floors are damp, stone chill beneath his bare hands as he smooths manuscripts and arranges pages. Candles are lit earlier, their flicker casting gentle shadows on vellum and timber beams. The scriptorium is quiet, almost solemn in its stillness. Outside, the forest is preparing for winter. Animals move carefully. A fox pads along the edge of the courtyard, leaving crisp tracks in frost-laden ground. Rabbits huddle among brambles. Birds gather in bare branches, their calls sharp and deliberate, even in their preparation. There is patience, an awareness of cycles longer than a human lifetime. The abbey itself bears the marks of the changing season. Roof tiles are slick with frost, cracks along arches widen subtly. Moss darkens, retaining moisture. While vines press deeper into gaps in stone, the monk touches each surface with care, adjusting manuscripts and smoothing pages. Ensuring fragile work survives the coming cold, every act is measured, deliberate, protective. Reflection comes easily in this season. He contemplates mortality, human and natural. The abbey will endure for years, yet every stone, every manuscript, every careful stroke of ink is subject to decay. Forest and time reclaim slowly. Inevitably, he thinks of past monks, their hands guiding quills across parchment, their presence leaving traces now preserved only in ink and memory. Meals are simple, warmed by a modest hearth, bread, rude vegetables, and water. Each act is intentional. Even sustenance becomes a meditation, an alignment with rhythm, a recognition that survival and care are intertwined. Outside, frost glistens. Dew freezes along edges of leaves and moss, and small animals move cautiously in search of food. The first snow arrives in a soft, quiet manner. Flakes drift through bare branches, settling gently on stone and moss. The abbey absorbs this slow transformation. Roofs and pots become white. The courtyard is muffled in silence. He pauses at a window, watching the snow press against the walls and settle along the edges of manuscripts carefully, stacked in dry corners. Evening arrives early. Candlelight dances across parchment, highlighting faded ink and carefully copied letters. The forest beyond is almost silent, softened by snow. The monk listens closely, the faint scrape of ice along stone, the distant call of a bird, the whisper of wind through skeletal branches. All movements are subtle, deliberate, measured. He kneels briefly, hands folded over manuscripts, eyes tracing faint lines of ink, breath slow, steady. The abbey, manuscripts, and forest exist together in delicate balance. Human effort persists quietly. Natural cycles continue persistently. Both leave traces, one in ink, one in frost, one in stone, one in root. Both endure, both exist together, without rush, without interruption. Night deepens, candles gutter low, frost thickens along thresholds, snow muffles the world. The monk closes his eyes briefly, listening to the rhythm of life outside, slow, deliberate, patient. Inside, careful human effort continues. Outside, the forest waits. Both persist. Intertwined yet distinct, measured in attention, care, and quiet endurance. Winter is absolute. Snow lies thick across the abbey and forest. Roofs, cobblestones, and moss are hidden beneath soft, weighty layers. Light is muted, pale, struggling through overcast skies. Shadows are long, color subdued. The air carries stillness. Cold presses gently against stone and timber. The monk moves slowly, boots crunching faintly through crusted snow. Breath rises in mystic clouds. Inside, the scriptorium is warm from the small hearth, but chill lingers in shaded corners. Manuscripts are carefully stacked, pages adjusted to prevent culling. Ink glistens faintly in candlelight. Every motion is deliberate, every act a quiet assertion. Against the immensity of time and nature. Outside, the forest is nearly sunned. Trees are skeletal, branches heavy with snow, bowing slightly underweight. Animals are hidden, bowed, patient. Footprints are few, vanishing quickly under new snowfall. Even in this dormancy, life persists. Measured in imperceptible cycles, roots press beneath soil, sap rests in buds. Wind moves flakes slowly along frozen ground. The Abbey bears the subtle marks of deep winter. Frost creeps along thresholds and window edges, roofs grown underweight. Vines press gently into gaps in stone. The monk walks corridors slowly, adjusting manuscripts, checking roofs for ice build-up, ensuring fragile surfaces are protected. His care is quiet, unobtrusive, yet persistent. Meals are simple: bread, roots, and water warmed over a fire. Each bite is deliberate, a slow recognition of sustenance as a quiet necessity. The small rituals: lighting candles, stacking pages. Adjusting quills become markers of time. Measured not in hours but in attentive acts, the day passes almost imperceptibly. Candlelight flickers across vellum, highlighting letters copied long ago. Shadows shift subtly along walls. Outside, snow drifts softly, settling over stones. Moss and timber, the forest waits. Patient and enduring, the Abbey persists. Manuscripts persist. Human presence persists quietly. Deliberately, reflection deepens. The monk considers impermanence. Everything snow, stone, ink, timber. Life itself is transient. Yet persistence, careful attention, and deliberate action leave traces. The Abbey, the manuscripts. The careful stroke of a quill they endure alongside the forest cycles. Neither rushed nor fleeting. Evening arrives slowly. Light fades to faint grey. Candle flames flicker against parchment and beams. The forest outside is heavy with snow, silent except for occasional gusts of wind. The monk pauses at a window, observing branches bowed. Moss softened beneath white. Breath slow, steady, patience. Attention, entrance. These are measures of time here. Night deepens fully. The Abbey is still, warmed by fire, alive with quiet human care. Outside, snow continues, muffling sound, pressing softly against stone and timber, roots, moss. And hidden animals persist in subtle motion. Inside, manuscripts remain preserved. Quill, ink, and hand continue deliberate work. The monk kneels briefly, hands folded over manuscripts, eyes closed. Thought drifts slowly. Centuries pass in cycles of seasons and effort. Human and natural presence exist intertwined. Distinct yet inseparable, both persist in quiet rhythm, both endure in patient attention, both bear witness to time. Snow falls heavier, candlelight flickers low, breath rises in gentle clouds. The Abbey sleeps lightly, manuscripts protected. Outside, the forest waits, persistent, patient, enduring inside. Human effort continues, deliberate, quiet, meticulous. Time moves slowly. Presence persists. Both endure, both exist. Measured not in hours, but in care, rhythm, and attention. Late winter is quiet, still and deliberate. Snow remains in patches along rooftops and moss. But the first signs of thaw are evident. Thin rivulets of water run along stone thresholds. Dripping from eaves in steady rhythms, the air carries a faint warmth. Hinting at the slow return of the sun, the monk rises early. Breath rises in mist, curling softly before dispersing. Floors are damped but stable. Manuscripts are adjusted carefully. Pages flattened against the subtle effects of frost. Candlelight casts gentle shadows. highlighting letters copied in previous years. Each page is a quiet testimony to persistence, to centuries of careful attention outside. The forest awakens gradually. Birds are louder now, calls carrying farther in the still air. Moss appears more vibrant in color, softened by melting snow. Small shoots of green emerge from soil that was frozen weeks before. Roots press beneath stone, carrying water and nutrients upward. Life persists, subtly, deliberately. Measured not by urgency, but by attention and rhythm. The Abbey bears the marks of late winter. Roof tiles sag slightly where frost pressed hardest. Cracks along arches are wider in some places, narrow in others. Vines press persistently into stonework. The monk notes these changes, adjusting manuscripts, brushing away dampness, ensuring fragile pages survive until the days grow longer and warmer. Every act is measured, intentional, deliberate. Meals are simple, taken with quiet awareness. Bread, rude vegetables, and water warmed by a small hearth. Each act is meditative, part of the rhythm of the day. The monk pauses often, listening to the subtle sounds of thaw, water dripping from eaves, wind through skeletal branches, distant birds preparing for nests. Even ordinary actions are filled with attentiveness, a quiet acknowledgement of cycles larger than human presence. Light grows slightly longer each day. Shadows shift across floors and manuscripts, moving imperceptibly. Candlelight becomes supplementary rather than essential during morning hours. The Abbey feels both renewed and ancient, stone softened by time. Timber bearing the weight of seasons, manuscripts preserved through centuries of careful work. Reflection comes easily in this season of transition. The monk contemplates continuity and renewal. Life outside the Abbey will reassert itself fully in weeks, yet human effort, deliberate and patient, continues quietly within these walls. Manuscripts are preserved, stone is tended, attention is given. Both human care and natural persistence mark time in small, deliberate ways. Evening arrives, light softens, amber and pale, filtering through bare and budding branches. Shadows stretch across corridors and scriptorium floors. The forest waits patiently, pressing against stone and moss with roots, vines, and emerging shoots. The Abbey absorbs this quiet persistence, stones, timber, and manuscripts coexisting with the slow advance of returning life. The monk pauses at a window, watching subtle movement. A fox moves cautiously across snow patches. Birds gather along branches now edged with tiny buds, breath slow, steady. He considers cycles of mortality and renewal. Winter has been absolute. Spring returns gradually. Manuscripts and stone endure through both. Both persist. Both bear witness to the quiet rhythm of time. Night descends gently. Candlelight flickers low, illuminating inked letters and curling pages. The Abbey rests, manuscripts preserved, timber stable. Outside, the forest is patient, alive yet dormant in pockets. Water drips softly from eaves, carrying the first thaws. Human effort continues inside, deliberate, attentive, quiet. Both endure, intertwined yet distinct, measured not by haste but by care, rhythm, and presence. Spring returns fully. Light grows warmer, stretching longer across stone floors and moss-covered thresholds. Buds emerge from branches along the forest edge, delicate and tentative, yet insistent. Petals appear along the ground, carried by wind or fallen from early blooms. The Abbey is alive again with soft light and subtle sound. The monk rises with first light. Air carries freshness, the scent of thawed soil, faint flowers and damp moss. He breathes slowly, deliberately, noting warmth against the chill still lingering in shaded corridors. Floors are dry, stone stable beneath careful steps. Manuscripts lie ready, pages flattened and edges smoothed after winter's frost. Outside, the forest hums softly with life. Birds call. Insects stir and small mammals emerge from growths. Cautious but curious, roots press beneath the softened ground. Moss grows vibrant along stone. Edges, every movement is deliberate, quiet, measured. The forest observes its own rhythm, asserting renewal without hurry. The abbey itself bears the subtle marks of winter past. Roofs bear small scars where frost pressed hardest. Timber holds minor warps from cold. Cracks in stone edges are slightly wider. Vines stretch gently. Along walls, the monk notes these changes carefully, adjusting manuscripts, brushing away debris, ensuring fragile pages are preserved. Every action is deliberate, a rhythm of continuity. Meals are simple, taken slowly. Bread, herbs, and water warmed by hearth. Each act carries awareness. A quiet meditation of sustenance. The monk pauses frequently, listening to subtle signs of life. Dripping water from eaves, wind in soft leaves, birds gathering for early nests. These moments are markers of time. Small and deliberate, yet profound in their persistence. Light moves across scriptorium floors in shifting patterns, shadows lengthen and shorten, dancing softly across vellum and timber. Manuscripts are read, copied and repaired, each stroke of ink measured against this gentle, deliberate movement. The monk observes each line, aware that centuries of care have preceded him, and that careful attention continues beyond the present moment. Outside, small animals move through the courtyard. A fox pauses, he is alert, before slipping back into undergrowth. Birds gather on low branches, chirping softly. The monk watches, silently noting rhythms of life. Each gesture subtle yet meaningful. Human effort and natural persistence coexist in quiet balance. Neither dominating, neither yielding. Evening arrives gently. Light softens to pale gold, filtering through newly budding branches. Shadows stretch across corridors, stone, and manuscripts. The forest presses close, patient, persistent. Yet unhurried, the abbey absorbs this rhythm, stone and timber enduring, manuscripts preserved. Life moving quietly outside. He pauses at a window, hands folded, breath slow. Thought drifts across time. Winters endured, summers passed, manuscripts preserved, forests reclaimed, cycles observed. Human presence is fleeting, yet attentive care leaves traces. The forest persists, the abbey persists, both endure. Intertwined yet distinct, both are measured by attention, persistence, and quiet rhythm. Night deepens, candles flicker against vellum and timber beams. The abbey rests, manuscripts protected, roofs holding against wind. Outside, the forest is active yet measured. Animals moving cautiously, buds pressing upward toward light. Human effort continues quietly. Deliberate, attentive, unhurried. Both endure, both persist, stretching across time. Season to season, century to century. Late spring arrives fully. Warmth settles into the abbey and forest, soft and enveloping. Sunlight filters through dense leaves, dappling stone floors and mossy corners. Flowers bloom in clusters. Subtle colors scattered among green, pale yellows, soft blues, muted whites. The air carries fragrance earth, blossoms, and warmth combined in quiet rhythm. The monk rises with first light. Air is mild, carrying the gentle scent of dew on soil and the faint perfume of blooming herbs. Floors are dry, stone is smooth beneath careful steps. Manuscripts are laid open on the scriptorium table, edges adjusted, pages flattened. Ink glistening faintly in morning light, each motion is deliberate, a continuation of centuries of careful attention. Outside, the forest hums with activity. Birds call, Insects stir and small mammals emerge. Moving along hidden trails, trees sway gently in warm wind, leaves brushing softly against stone walls. Roots press beneath soil. Moss glows vibrant, and flowers lift toward sunlight. Life is active, yet measured, patient in its own rhythms. The Abbey reflects this abundance. Roofs hold warmth from sun. Timber glows softly. Stone retains gentle heat. Cracks from winter remain, widen slightly, yet repaired with care. Vines stretch along walls, intertwining with flowers pressed close to stone. The monk moves among these spaces slowly, adjusting manuscripts, clearing debris, ensuring fragile pages remain safe. Each action is intentional, a rhythm of continuity aligned with seasonal life. Meals are simple, taken with awareness. Bread, garden herbs, and water. Each bite is deliberate. A quiet recognition of sustenance within cycles of life. He pauses often, listening to subtle sounds, insects hovering near blooms, birds calling to one another. The soft rustle of leaves in wind. Ordinary acts become markers of time, integrated with the rhythms of forest and abbey alike. Light moves in long, soft arcs across floors. Shadows stretch across manuscript edges and timber beams. Highlighting the delicate work of prior scribes, the monk traces letters with careful eyes, mindful of centuries of care that precede him. Observation becomes meditation, each line of ink, each fold of parchment, each small repair a continuation of quiet effort across generations. Outside, a fox pauses at the courtyard edge. He is alert before moving along snowless. Mossy pots, birds perch in trees. Settling into early nests, the monk observes silently, aware that human effort and natural persistence coexist, distinct yet interwoven. Both claim space, both leave traces, both endure through cycles of growth and change. Evening comes slowly, golden light filtering through fully leafed branches. Shadows stretch across floors and manuscripts. The forest hums quietly, active but balanced. Pressing gently against abbey walls, the monk pauses at a window, hands folded, breath steady. Thought drifts to continuity. Centuries of effort, manuscripts preserved, stone and timber enduring, forest reclaiming, yet in balance with human care. Night deepens. Candles illuminate vellum softly, flickering along timber and stone. The abbey rests. Manuscripts protected, roofs warm from lingering sun. Outside, the forest moves in quiet cycles, insects settling, animals resting, leaves brushing softly in gentle wind. Human effort continues inside. Deliberate, patient, attentive, both endure. Intertwined yet distinct, measured in care, rhythm, and presence. Early summer settles slowly. Days stretch long, sunlight warm and gentle, carrying subtle heat across stone floors and moss-covered courtyards. Leaves are fully grown, thick and green, brushing softly against abbey walls. Flowers bloom quietly, clusters of muted color dotting the forest floor. The air carries the faint scent of earth and growth, steady, measured. Deliberate, the monk rises with light still soft and cool. Air is warm near the hearth, but carries the freshness of the forest beyond. He walks carefully across stone floors, manuscripts laid open on the scriptorium table. Pages are adjusted, ink glistening faintly, edges smoothed. Every motion is deliberate. A quiet continuation of centuries of attention and care outside. The forest hums with life. Birds call from branches heavy with leaves. Small animals move along hidden paths. Moss glows vivid green. Roots press beneath the softened soil. The abbey exists alongside this persistent growth, neither dominating nor yielding. Human presence continues quietly, deliberately, attentive to cycles larger than itself. The abbey bears subtle evidence of seasonal change. Roofs hold warmth from long days. Stone absorbs sun slowly. Timber glows softly. Vines press persistently against walls. Cracks widened by winter and early spring remain, softened by moss and careful observation. The monk adjusts manuscripts, smooths edges, ensures fragile pages survive through sun, rain, and wind. Each act is measured, intentional, persistent. Meals are simple, taken with attention, bread, herbs, and water warmed by fire. Each bite is deliberate. He listens closely to the rhythm of life outside. Wind rustling through leaves, insects hovering near blooms, birds calling softly. Even ordinary acts become quiet markers of time, aligned with forest rhythms and Abbey life. Light moves in long, gentle arcs, illuminating manuscripts and timber beams. Shadows shift gradually, highlighting the intricate work of centuries past. The monk traces letters with careful eyes. Aware of the lineage of scribes before him, observation itself becomes meditation, each stroke of ink, each fold of parchment. Each careful repair is a continuation of deliberate effort across generations. Outside, a fox moves cautiously across the courtyard, paws sinking slightly into soft earth. Birds perch on branches, their calls echoing faintly. Insects hover near blooms. The monk watches silently, noting the delicate balance. Human effort persists. Natural growth continues, both intertwined yet distinct. Both leave traces, both endure. Evening arrives slowly. Light softens to gold, filtering through dense branches. Shadows stretch across floors, manuscripts, and stone. The forest hums quietly, active but deliberate. Pressing gently against Abbey walls, the monk pauses at a window, hands folded, breath steady. Thought drifts to cycles, manuscripts preserved, stone enduring, timber weathering seasons, forest pressing persistently, humans observing and maintaining through care. Night deepens. Candles flicker across vellum and timber beams. The Abbey rests, manuscripts protected. Roofs warm from lingering sun. Outside, the forest continues in quiet cycles, small animals moving, leaves brushing softly, insects settling. Human effort continues inside. Deliberate, attentive, patient, both persist. Intertwined yet distinct, measured not in urgency but in rhythm, care, and presence. Midsummer arrives fully. Sunlight presses warm and steady across stone floors, moss, and timber. The forest is dense, leaves thick and green, filtering light into dappled patterns on the Abbey walls and courtyard. Air carries the scent of earth, flowers and slow warmth, heavy yet comforting. The monk rises early. Even before the first golden light spreads, he breathes the warm air, noting subtle changes, moss vibrant, stone warmed by days of sun. Leaves brushing gently against walls. Floors are dry, smooth beneath careful steps. Manuscripts lie open on tables, pages flattened, edges adjusted. Each movement is deliberate, slow, measured, a continuation of centuries of care. Outside, the forest hums with activity. Birds call persistently. Insects hover near blooms. And small mammals move through undergrowth. Roots press beneath soil, carrying life upward. Flowers lift toward sunlight. Petals open fully. The Abbey coexists quietly with this abundance, neither dominating nor yielding. A rhythm of human effort aligned with persistent natural growth. The Abbey itself bears subtle marks of midsummer. Roofs glint in sunlight, stone-warmed. Timber glowing softly. Cracks in stone are softened by moss and careful observation. Vines press gently into walls, flowers entwining with ancient stone. The monk moves among these spaces, adjusting manuscripts, smoothing edges, ensuring fragile work endures heat, sun, and occasional rainfall. Every act is deliberate. A quiet assertion of persistence. Meals are simple, deliberate, bread, herbs, and water warmed by fire. Each bite becomes meditation. He pauses often, listening, the rustle of leaves, the hum of insects, the calls of birds. Even ordinary acts carry awareness, aligned with cycles outside. Each movement, each sound. Each gesture is a part of the enduring rhythm of abbey and forest. Light shifts slowly across floors and manuscripts. Shadows dance across vellum and timber beams, highlighting centuries of careful work. The monk traces letters with deliberate attention, aware of generations of scribes before him. Observation itself becomes meditation, ink, parchment. And careful repair form a chain of persistence stretching across decades, centuries outside. Small animals move cautiously, foxes, birds, and insects following hidden paths. The monk watches quietly, noting coexistence. Human effort persists, nature persists. Both leave traces, both endure. Neither is rushed. Both act according to their rhythms. Evening arrives with a slow warmth. Amber light filtering through dense branches. Shadows stretch across the abbey floor. Manuscripts and stone. The forest hums quietly, pressing against walls, persistent yet measured. The monk pauses at a window, hands folded, breath steady. Thought drifts across centuries, manuscripts preserved, stone enduring, timber weathering sun and wind, forest pressing persistently. Humans maintaining with deliberate care. Night deepens, candles flicker across vellum, stone and timber. The abbey rests, manuscripts protected, roofs cooled from lingering sun outside. The forest continues its quiet cycles, leaves rustle, insects settle. Animals move unseen, human effort continues inside. Deliberate, attentive, persistent, both endure. Intertwined yet distinct, measured in care, rhythm, and presence. Late summer arrives quietly, carrying warmth that is no longer sharp but softened, tempered by lengthening shadows and gentler light. The forest remains vibrant. Yet subtle signs of transition appear. Leaves at the edge of the canopy edge toward gold and brown. Flowers bloom in fewer clusters, petals curling at edges. The air is heavy with earth and the faint scent of drying leaves. The monk rises early, breath slow, noting subtle changes in light filtering through dense branches. Stone floors are cool beneath careful steps. Manuscripts lie open on tables, edges adjusted. Ink glistening faintly in morning sun. Each movement is deliberate, each gesture attentive. Every act is part of a continuous thread of care that stretches across seasons and generations. Outside, the forest hums softly. Birds call, fewer now than in midsummer, their notes subdued. Insects move along sun-warmed leaves. Small mammals forage among roots and fallen branches, attentive. Measured, the abbey coexists quietly with the persistent cycles of the forest, neither dominating nor yielding, aligning human care with the rhythm of nature. The abbey bears gentle marks of late summer. Roofs warmed by long days glint softly. Timber glows with sun's subtle intensity. Cracks along stone edges show traces of summer heat, softened by moss. Vines press persistently along walls. The monk moves deliberately through corridors, adjusting manuscripts, smoothing pages, ensuring fragile work remains preserved through the coming seasonal shift. Meals are simple, taken slowly, deliberately. Bread, herbs, water warmed by fire. Each act is deliberate meditation. He pauses to listen, the faint rustle of leaves. Insects hovering near fading blooms. Birds calling quietly from dense branches. These small acts become markers of time, aligned with rhythms beyond human control. Light shifts gently, creating long, subtle arcs across scriptorium floors. Shadows stretch across manuscript edges and timber beams, highlighting centuries of careful work. The monk traces letters slowly, aware that each stroke of ink continues a lineage of deliberate care. Observation itself is. Meditation, preservation, attention, hindrance. Each gesture extends the chain of effort from past to future. Outside, a fox pauses at the courtyard edge, careful, deliberate. Birds perch along branches, settling among early signs of leaf change. Insects hover near remaining blooms. The monk observes silently. Noting coexistence, human effort persists, nature persists. Intertwined yet distinct, both leave traces, both endure. Neither rushes, both move according to rhythm. Evening comes slowly. Light softens to muted gold, filtering through thick branches, turning at edges. Shadows stretch across floors, manuscripts. And stone. The forest hums quietly, pressing gently against Abbey walls, patient. Persistent, the monk pauses at a window, hands folded, breath steady. Thought drifts across time, manuscripts preserved, stone enduring, timber weathering sun and wind, forest pressing persistently, humans attending with care. Night deepens. Candles flicker across vellum and timber beams. The abbey rests, manuscripts protected. Outside, the forest prepares subtly for a seasonal shift, leaves curling, animals moving cautiously, air carrying cooler hints of approaching autumn. Human effort continues inside, deliberate, attentive, patient. Both endure, intertwined yet distinct, measured in rhythm, care. And presence. Early autumn arrives quietly. The air carries coolness. Brushing softly against stone and timber, leaves have begun to turn fully gold, amber, and red scattered across branches. The forest floor is mottled with fallen foliage, dry, crisp, creating subtle rustling beneath the feet of small animals. Light is softer, filtered through changing leaves. Amber shadows stretching across the abbey walls and moss-covered stones. The monk rises before dawn. Breath rises in gentle mist, curling slowly in the cool air. Floors are dry but cold beneath careful steps. Manuscripts lie open, edges smooth. Ink glistening faintly in early light. Each movement is slow, deliberate, attentive. Every action is part of an ongoing chain of care that spans seasons, decades, centuries. Outside, the forest hums quietly. Birds move along branches, calling softly. Small mammals forage among leaves. Moss remains green, softened by recent rains. Roots press beneath the soil. The abbey and forest coexist in delicate balance, the monk tending manuscripts and stone. The forest continuing its cycles without hurry. The abbey bears the subtle marks of early autumn. Roofs hold residual warmth from days past. Timber glows softly in morning light. Stone edges bear the quiet traces of months of sun and rain. Cracks remain, softened by moss and attentive care. Vines press gently along walls. Mingling with fallen leaves, the monk moves carefully, adjusting manuscripts, brushing away debris, ensuring fragile pages are preserved as temperatures fall. Meals are simple, taken slowly. Bread, root vegetables, water warmed by fire. Each act is deliberate, meditative. He pauses frequently, listening, the rustle of leaves in gentle wind, distant bird calls, the soft scrape of small animals moving across dry foliage. Ordinary actions become markers of time, aligned with the rhythms of forest and abbey. Light shifts subtly across the scriptorium floor. Shadows stretch long, highlighting manuscripts and timber beams. Each letter, each fold of parchment, each careful repair is a continuation of centuries of effort. Observation becomes meditation, preservation, attention, endurance. Human effort extending into cycles far larger than the present. Outside, small animals move cautiously through the courtyard. A fox pauses, ears alert. then continues along pot's edge with fallen leaves. Birds settle into branches. Noting subtle shifts in color and air, the monk observes silently. Human care persists. Natural cycles continue. Both leave traces. Both endure. Neither rushes. Both proceed in patient rhythm. Evening arrives with muted light. Filtering through dense branches now fully tinged with autumn, shadows stretch across floors and manuscripts. The forest presses softly against Abbey walls, persistent yet measured. The monk pauses at a window, hands folded, breath steady, thought drifts, manuscripts preserved, stone enduring, timber weathering sun and wind, forest pressing persistently. Humans attending with care, cycles repeating endlessly. Night deepens, candles flicker across vellum, stone, and timber. The Abbey rests, manuscripts protected. Outside, the forest settles into quiet preparation, leaves falling, animals foraging, air carrying hints of coming cold. Human effort continues inside. Deliberate, attentive, patient, both endure. Intertwined yet distinct, measured by rhythm, care, and presence. Mid-autumn settles slowly, leaves fall steadily, drifting across the courtyard. Curling at edges, crisp beneath unseen feet. The forest becomes quieter, shadows lengthening, wind carrying faint hints of frost. Light is subdued, filtered through sparse branches, casting long umber and grey streaks across stone walls and moss-covered surfaces. The monk rises. Early, breath rises in visible clouds in the cooler air. Floors are dry but cold beneath careful. Steps, manuscripts lie open on the scriptorium table. Edges are smoothed, in glistening faintly. Every gesture is deliberate. Every act is attentive. Human care continues, persistent against the slow advance of seasonal change outside. The forest hums with diminished activity. Birds move cautiously, calling softly. Small mammals forage among fallen leaves, their pots hidden beneath a shifting carpet of amber. Roots press beneath soil. Moss retains deep green where shaded. The Abbey exists quietly alongside this transition. Human effort persistent, natural cycles pressing steadily. The Abbey bears subtle marks of mid-autumn. Roofs are cool now. Timber darkened by lingering moisture. Stone absorbs weak sunlight. Cracks in masonry are softened by moss but highlighted by falling leaves. Vines cling persistently, some curling with frost. The monk moves through corridors, adjusting manuscripts, brushing away fallen leaves, ensuring fragile pages are preserved against wind, moisture, and decreasing daylight. Each motion is careful. MEAS URED, unhurried. Meals are simple, eaten with attention. Bread, root vegetables. Water warmed by fire. Each bite becomes part of a meditation on persistence. He listens, leaves brushing against stone. Distant bird calls, occasional gust of wind through skeletal branches. These subtle sounds mark time more accurately than any clock, aligning human effort with the cycles of the forest and Abbey. Light shifts gradually, creating long, muted arcs across floors and manuscripts. Shadows stretch across vellum, timber beams and stone surfaces. Every letter, fold of parchment, and careful repair is an extension of past effort. A continuation of deliberate attention across generations. Observation itself becomes meditation. Preservation, patience, endurance. Outside, small animals move cautiously. A fox slips through fallen leaves, is alert. Birds settle briefly in bare branches. Insects are less active, hovering near last flowers. The monk observes silently, noting coexistence. Human effort persists. Natural cycles endure. Intertwined yet distinct. Both leave traces. Both persist. Neither is hurried. Both move with patience. Evening arrives slowly. Light softens to amber grey, filtering through thinning branches. Shadows stretch across floors and manuscripts. The forest presses gently against the abbey walls. Persistent but subdued, the monk pauses at a window. Hands folded, breath steady. Thought drifts across centuries, manuscripts preserved, stone injuring, timber weathering sun, wind and frost, forest reclaiming slowly, humans attending with care. Night deepens. Candles flicker across vellum and timber beams. The abbey rests, manuscripts protected, outside. The forest quiets, leaves settling, small animals moving cautiously. Air carrying the first hints of frost. Human effort continues inside. Deliberate, attentive, patient, both endure, intertwined yet distinct, measured by rhythm, care, and presence. Late autumn arrives with quiet finality. Frost edges the moss, coating stone and timber in a delicate sheen. The forest is nearly dormant. Leaves stripped from branches. The ground littered with brittle remnants of summer and early autumn. Light is subdued, pale gold and grey, filtering through bare branches, stretching long shadows across the abbey's walls and courtyard. The monk rises in stillness. Breath curls invisible clouds in the chilly air. Floors are cold. Stone pressing beneath careful steps. Manuscripts lie open on the scriptorium table. Edges flattened, in catching the faint, fading light. Each motion is deliberate, each gesture attentive. Human care continues quietly, persistent against the slow advance of seasonal dormancy. Outside, the forest moves almost imperceptibly. Birds call rarely, cautious and soft. Small mammals forage in hidden paths beneath frost-dusted leaves. Moss retains. Deep green where sheltered from frost. Roots press beneath soil, steady and unseen. The abbey exists quietly alongside this dormancy. Human effort enduring, natural cycles slowing but persisting. The abbey bears the subtle marks of late autumn. Roofs retain chill from nights that dip near freezing. Timber darkens in low light, stone edges reveal cracks softened by moss and time. Vines cling persistently to walls, curling and twisting where leaves have fallen. The monk moves through corridors, adjusting manuscripts, ensuring fragile pages are protected from damp and frost. Each motion is careful, measured, patient. Meals are simple, taken with attention. Bread, rude vegetables, water warmed by fire. Each act becomes quiet meditation. He listens, wind brushing bare branches, the occasional distant call of a bird, small animals rustling in frost-laden leaves. These small, subtle sounds mark time more accurately than any clock, aligning human care with the natural cycles that surround him. Light shifts slowly across scriptorium floors. Shadows stretch across manuscripts, timber beams and stone. Each letter traced, each fold of parchment, each repair made, is a continuation of careful attention through generations. Observation itself becomes meditation, preservation, endurance, patience. Every small effort extends into centuries of human care outside. Small animals move cautiously through the courtyard. A fox slips through frost-dusted leaves. Birds perch quietly in sparse branches. The monk observes silently. Human effort persists. Nature endures, intertwined yet distinct. Both leave traces, both endure, neither hurried, both acting according to rhythm and attention. Evening comes gently, pale light filtering through bare branches. Shadows lengthen across floors and manuscripts. The forest presses softly against abbey walls, persistent, patient, subdued. The monk pauses at a window, hands folded, breath steady. Thought drifts across centuries, manuscripts preserved, stone injuring, timber weathering sun, wind and frost, forest reclaiming slowly. Humans maintaining with careful attention. Night deepens, Candles flicker against vellum. Timber, the abbey rests, manuscripts protected, roofs chill from waning sun. Outside, the forest sleeps lightly, frost settling, small animals moving cautiously, air carrying the first intimations of winter. Human effort continues inside, deliberate, attentive, patient. Both endure, intertwined yet distinct, measured by rhythm, care, and presence. Early winter arrives slowly, softly. Snow begins to fall in quiet flakes, brushing stone, timber, and moss with delicate white. The forest is still, muted, branches heavy with early accumulation. Light is pale, filtered through overcast skies, casting long, soft shadows across the abbey's walls and courtyard. The air is cold but still, carrying the faint scent of frost and earth beneath the snow. The monk rises early. Breath forms thin clouds in the chill air. Floors are cold, stone hard beneath careful steps. Manuscripts lie open, edges adjusted, in catching faint grey light. Every movement is deliberate, measured. Human care continues quietly, persistent against the stillness of early winter outside. The forest is silent. Birds are fewer now, calling sparingly. Small mammals forage cautiously, their paths traced in soft snow. Moss remains deep green where shaded. Roots press beneath soil, steady and unseen. The abbey exists alongside this quiet dormancy, human effort enduring, natural cycles slowed, yet persistent. The abbey bears subtle marks of early winter. Roofs glisten with frost and early snow. Timber darkens under low light. Stone edges reveal moss-softened cracks. Vines cling persistently to walls. Curling under the weight of cold, the monk moves deliberately through corridors, adjusting manuscripts, brushing away snow that drifts indoors, ensuring fragile pages are preserved against damp, frost, and shortening daylight. Each gesture is careful, patient, intentional. Meals are simple, eaten with awareness. Bread, root vegetables, water warmed by fire. Each act becomes quiet meditation. He listens, wind brushing snow-laden branches, occasional distant bird call, subtle creak of timber under frost. These small sounds mark time, aligning human care with cycles far larger than the abbey itself. Light shifts slowly, muted and grey, across scriptorium floors. Shadows stretch across manuscripts, timber beams, and stone. Each letter traced, fold of parchment, and careful repair extends centuries of effort. Observation itself becomes meditation, preservation, hindrance, patience. Each small act joins the chain of care that has spanned generations outside. Small animals move cautiously through snow-dusted courtyard. A fox leaves faint tracks in soft snow. Birds perch silently on branches. The monk observes quietly. Human effort persists. Natural cycles endure, intertwined yet distinct. Both leave traces. Both persist. Neither hurries. Both act according to rhythm, attention, and care. Evening arrives gently, pale light fading across snow-covered stone and timber. Shadows lengthen across floors and manuscripts. The forest presses softly against abbey walls, persistent, patient, subdued. The monk pauses at a window, hands folded, breath steady. Thought drifts, manuscripts preserved, stone enduring, timber weathering sun, wind, frost, and snow, forests reclaiming slowly, humans maintaining with careful attention. Night deepens, candles flicker across vellum and timber beams. The abbey rests, manuscripts protected. Outside, snow settles quietly over the forest and courtyard. Small animals moving cautiously beneath its weight. Human effort continues inside, deliberate, attentive, patient. Both endure, intertwined yet distinct, measured by rhythm, care, and presence. Deep winter settles over the abbey and forest. Snow accumulates, soft and silent, covering stone, timber, and moss in thick, white layers. Trees are bare, branches etched starkly against pale skies. The forest sleeps, its usual hum quieted beneath the weight of cold and frost. Light is pale, diffuse, lingering briefly over snow-laden surfaces before fading early into long shadows. The monk rises slowly. Breath curls visibly in the frigid air. Floors are cold beneath careful steps. Manuscripts lie open, edges flattened, in catching faint light. Each motion is deliberate, measured, patient. Human care continues quietly, persistent against the stillness and dormancy of deep winter outside. The forest moves almost imperceptibly. Birds are rare, calling softly. Small mammals leave traces in snow, fleeting paths across otherwise silent earth. Moss retains deep green where shaded. Roots press unseen beneath frozen soil. The abbey exists quietly alongside this dormancy, human effort enduring, natural cycles slowed, yet persistent. The abbey bears subtle marks of deep winter. Roofs are capped in snow, timber darkened by cold. Stone edges reveal moss-softened cracks, accentuated by frost. Vines cling stubbornly to walls. Curling under snow's weight, the monk moves through corridors, adjusting manuscripts, brushing away drifting snow indoors, ensuring fragile pages remain protected from damp, cold, and short days. Each motion is deliberate, attentive, and hurried. Meals are simple, eaten with awareness. Bread, rude vegetables, water warmed by fire. Each act becomes meditation, sustenance observed. Care practiced. He listens. Wind brushing snow-laden branches, occasional distant bird call. Subtle creak of timber under frost. These small, quiet sounds mark the passage of time, aligning human effort with cycles far larger than the abbey itself. Light shifts slowly across scriptorium floors. Shadows stretch long across manuscripts, timber beams and stone, each letter traced, each fold of parchment. Each careful repair continues centuries of careful effort. Observation itself becomes meditation. Preservation entrance. Patience. Each small act joins the chain of care that stretches backward and forward across generations. Outside, small animals move cautiously, leaving faint traces in snow. A fox pauses at the edge of the courtyard, ears alert, before disappearing into the white forest. Birds perch silently. Scarce and wary, the monk observes quietly. Human effort persists. Nature endures. Intertwined yet distinct. Both leave traces. Both persist. Neither is rushed. Both follow rhythm. Attention and care. Evening arrives slowly. Light fades, softening against snow and stone. Shadows stretch across floors and manuscripts. The forest presses softly against abbey walls, persistent, patient, subdued. The monk pauses at a window, hands folded, breath steady. Thought drifts, manuscripts preserved, stone enduring, timber weathering sun, wind, frost and snow, forest reclaiming slowly, humans maintaining with careful attention. Night deepens. Candles flicker across vellum and timber beams. The abbey rests, manuscripts protected, outside. Snow blankets the forest and courtyard, still and deep. Human effort continues inside. Deliberate, attentive, patient, both endure, intertwined yet distinct, measured by rhythm, care, and presence. Late winter lingers softly. Snow thins in patches, revealing frozen earth and moss hardened under frost. Branches remain bare. Yet small buds appear along twigs, subtle and easily missed. The air is sharper in the morning, warmed gradually by the lengthening sun. Shadows shrink, then stretch again in the low, Pale light. The monk rises before dawn. Breath forms mist in the chilly air. Floors are cold beneath careful steps. Manuscripts lie open. Edges flattened, in catching the faint, increasing light. Every motion is deliberate, patient, attentive. Human care continues quietly, persistent against the slow retreat of winter. Outside, the forest begins to stir. Birds call softly. Returning in cautious numbers, small mammals move beneath thinning snow, tracing paths across earth softened by early thaw. Moss darkens where moisture returns, roots press beneath soil, steady, preparing for the growth that will soon follow. The Abbey exists quietly alongside this tentative revival, human effort enduring, natural cycles. Renewing, the Abbey bears subtle marks of late winter. Roofs shed residual snow. Timber glows softly where sunlight catches moisture-laden wood. Stone edges retain frost in shadowed cracks. Vines cling where last year's leaves fell, curling gently. The monk moves deliberately through corridors, adjusting manuscripts, brushing away lingering frost indoors, ensuring fragile pages are preserved against cold and moisture. Preparing them for the returning warmth, meals are simple, eaten with mindfulness, bread, root vegetables, water warmed by fire. Each act becomes quiet meditation, sustenance observed, care practiced. He listens, distant birds calling tentatively, water dripping from thawing roots, subtle rustle of small animals beneath exposed earth. These faint sounds mark the slow turning of cycles, aligning human attention with the rhythms of forest and abbey. Light shifts subtly across scriptorium floors, shadows lengthen and shrink across manuscripts, timber beams and stone. Each letter traced, each fold of parchment, each careful repair continues centuries of deliberate effort. Observation itself becomes meditation, preservation, endurance, patience. Every small act joins a continuum of care stretching backward and forward across generations. Outside, small animals emerge cautiously. A fox moves along partially exposed earth, leaving faint traces. Birds perch quietly in skeletal branches, observing the thaw. The monk observes silently. Human effort persists. Nature awakens. Intertwined yet distinct, both leave traces, both endure, neither hurries. Both move according to rhythm, attention and care. Evening arrives gently. Light softens, pale gold filtering through sparse branches, reflecting on damp stone and timber. Shadows stretch across floors and manuscripts. The forest presses softly against abbey walls. Persistent, patient, awakening, the monk pauses at a window. Hands folded, breath steady. Thought drifts across centuries, manuscripts preserved, stone enduring, timber weathering sun, wind, frost and snow, forests renewing slowly, humans maintaining with careful attention. Night deepens, candles flicker across vellum and timber beams, the abbey rests. Manuscripts protected, outside, odd patches of forest floor emerge. Birds and small animals moving cautiously. Human effort continues inside. Deliberate, attentive, patient, both endure, intertwined yet distinct, measured by rhythm, care, and presence. Early spring arrives fully. Branches stretch with small, tender leaves. Buds open along twigs, pale green and soft. Streams flow with melting snow, trickling over stones and roots, carrying moisture into the earth. Light is warmer, gentler, longer, reflecting on timber, stone, and moss. The air carries the subtle scent of thawing earth. Wet moss and early blooms, the monk rises before dawn. Breath rises slowly in the warm air. Floors are cool beneath careful steps. Manuscripts lie open. On tables, edges adjusted, in catching the first long rays of sun. Each movement is deliberate, precise, attentive. Human care continues quietly, persistent against the revival of the forest. Outside, the forest hums softly. Birds call more frequently, their songs tentative yet bright. Small mammals move over soft, damp soil, leaving traces among new leaves. Moss darkens where moisture returns fully. Roots press beneath earth, steady. Preparing for a new growth, the Abbey exists quietly alongside this renewal. Human effort enduring. Natural cycles returning with vigor. The Abbey bears subtle marks of early spring. Roofs glisten with melted frost and early rain. Timber glows in sunlight. Stone edges reveal moss-softened cracks now darkened by moisture. Vines begin to stir, small leaves appearing where last season's growth remained dormant. The monk moves through corridors, adjusting manuscripts, brushing away debris, ensuring fragile pages are preserved against damp, preparing for the brighter days to come. Meals are simple, eaten with mindfulness, bread, early greens. Water warmed by fire. Each act becomes meditation, sustenance observed, care practiced. He listens, the sound of trickling streams, birds calling, gentle wind through emerging leaves. These subtle sounds mark cycles returning, aligning human attention with the rhythm of forest and abbey. Light shifts gradually across scriptorium floors, shadows stretch and shift across manuscripts, timber beams and stone. Each letter traced, each fold of parchment, each careful repair continues centuries of deliberate effort. Observation itself becomes meditation, preservation, endurance, attention. Every small act extends into generations of care, linking human persistence with nature's renewal outside. Small animals move cautiously but confidently. A fox slips along soft earth. Birds flit among branches. The monk observes silently. Human effort persists, forest awakens, intertwined yet distinct. Both leave traces, both endure. Neither is hurried. Both follow rhythm, attention, and care. Evening arrives gently. Light softens, golden across moss, stone, and timber. Shadows stretch across floors and manuscripts. The forest presses softly against Abbey. Walls, vibrant, patient, awakening. The monk pauses at a window, hands folded, breath steady. Thought drifts across centuries, manuscripts preserved, stone enduring, timber weathering sun, wind, frost, snow, and rain. Forest renewing slowly. Humans maintaining with deliberate attention. Night deepens. Candles flicker across Vellamand. Timber beams. The Abbey rests. Manuscripts protected. Outside, streams flow. Animals move among fresh leaves, and air carries the subtle scent of earth and new growth. Human effort continues inside. Deliberate, attentive, patient, both endure. Intertwined yet distinct, measured by rhythm, care, and presence. Mid-spring arrives fully. Branches are thick with leaves now, a vivid green that catches sunlight in shifting patterns. Flowers bloom in small clusters along forest edges. Streams flow steadily, clear and bright, tracing lines over stones and roots. The air carries the rich scent of wet earth, moss, and new growth. Light warms the Abbey's stone and timber, highlighting textures smoothed and weathered by seasons past. The monk rises with the sun. Breath rises faintly in cooler corners of the scriptorium. Floors are steady beneath careful steps. Manuscripts lie open, edges flattened. Ink reflecting the first warm rays. Every movement is deliberate, precise, attentive. Human care continues quietly, persistent, attuned to the rhythms of forest and abbey alike. Outside, the forest hums, birds sing more boldly now. Small mammals move confidently, foraging through soft, damp soil. Moss darkens where shaded. Roots press steadily beneath soil. The abbey exists quietly alongside this vitality. Human effort enduring, natural cycles flourishing round and through it. The Abbey bears subtle marks of mid-spring. Roofs shimmer with dew in morning light. Timber glows warmly. Stone edges reveal moss softened. Cracks now darkened by moisture. Vines stir, climbing walls. Leaves brushing stone as they grow. The monk moves through corridors, adjusting manuscripts, sweeping small debris, ensuring fragile pages remain preserved amidst sun, moisture, and warmth. Each action is careful, attentive, patient. Meals are simple, eaten with mindfulness, bread, early greens. Water warmed by fire. Each bite becomes quiet meditation. Sustenance observed, care practiced. He listens, streams flowing, birds calling, leaves rustling in gentle wind. These subtle sounds mark time and cycles, aligning human effort with the rhythm of forest and abbey. Light shifts gradually across scriptorium floors. Shadows stretch and shrink across manuscripts. Timber beams and stone surfaces. Each letter traced, each fold of parchment, each repair continues centuries of deliberate effort. Observation itself becomes meditation, preservation, endurance, patience. Every small act joins the ongoing chain of care that bridges generations, linking human persistence with the vitality of nature. Outside, small animals move freely. A fox slinks along moss-covered paths. Birds flit among branches, feeding and calling. The monk observes silently. Human effort persists, forest thrives. Intertwined yet distinct, both leave traces, both endure. Neither hurries, both move with rhythm. Attention and care. Evening arrives softly. Light warms timber and stone, filtering through thick leaves, casting dancing shadows across floors and manuscripts. The forest presses gently against airy walls, vibrant. Patient, flourishing, the monk pauses at a window. Hands folded, breath steady. Thought drifts, manuscripts preserved, stone enduring. Timber weathering sun, wind, frost, snow, rain. Forest renewing, humans maintaining with careful attention. Night deepens. Candles flicker across vellum and timber beams. The abbey rests, manuscripts protected, outside. Streams flow, animals forage, leaves rustle gently in evening air. Human effort continues inside. Deliberate, attentive, patient, both endure, intertwined yet distinct, measured by rhythm, care, and presence. Late spring stretches across the forest and abbey. Like lingers long, warming stone and timber in gentle gold, leaves are fully formed. Thick and vibrant, flowers bloom along forest paths and courtyards. Streams run steady and clear, tracing lines over roots and stones. The air is warm, carrying scents of moss, wet earth, and new growth. The monk rises with measured care. Breath forms only faint clouds in early warmth. Floors are firm beneath steady steps. Manuscripts lie open, edges adjusted, in catching the morning sun. Each gesture is deliberate, precise, attentive. Human care continues quietly, persistent against the vibrant pulse of nature. Outside, the forest hums with life. Birds sing clearly. Small mammals move with confidence. And moss darkens where moisture is shaded. Roots press beneath soil, steady, preparing for full seasonal growth. The abbey exists quietly amidst this activity. Human effort enduring, natural cycles flourishing with vigor. The abbey bears subtle marks of late spring. Roofs glisten with dew. Timber glows warmly under lengthening sunlight. Stone edges show moss-softened cracks. Darkened by spring rains, vines climb walls. Leaves brushing stone and timber with gentle persistence. The monk moves carefully through corridors, adjusting manuscripts, sweeping small debris, and ensuring fragile pages are preserved against sun, moisture, and growing warmth. Each action is deliberate, patient, measured. Meals are simple, eaten slowly. Bread, early greens. Water warmed by fire. Each bite becomes quiet meditation. Sustenance observed, care practiced. He listens, streams flowing steadily, birds calling, leaves rustling in warmer wind. These subtle sounds mark time, aligning human attention with the rhythm of forest and abbey. Light shifts gradually across scriptorium floors, shadows stretch and move across manuscripts. Timber beams and stone surfaces, each letter traced, each fold of parchment. Each repair continues centuries of careful effort. Observation itself becomes meditation, preservation, endurance, patience. Every small act links human persistence with the ongoing vitality of nature. Outside, small animals move among the leaves. A fox passes quietly along moss-covered paths. Birds flit among branches, calling. Feeding, the monk observes silently. Human effort persists. Forest thrives. Intertwined yet distinct. Both leave traces, both endure. Neither hurries, both move with rhythm, attention, and care. Evening arrives gently. Light softens, golden across stone and timber, filtering through dense leaves. Casting dancing shadows across floors and manuscripts, the forest presses softly against Abbey. Walls, patient, vibrant, alive. The monk pauses at a window, hands folded, breath steady. Thought drifts, manuscripts preserved, stone enduring, timber weathering sun, wind, frost, snow, and rain. Forest renewing steadily, humans maintaining with careful attention. Night deepens. Candles flicker across vellum and timber beams. The abbey rests, manuscripts protected outside. Streams flow, animals forage, leaves rustle softly in evening air. Human effort continues inside. Deliberate, attentive, patient, both endure, intertwined yet distinct, measured by rhythm, care, and presence. Early summer arrives fully. The forest is lush, dense. Leaves thick and deep green, filtering sunlight in shifting patterns. Flowers bloom quietly along paths and abbey walls. Streams flow steadily. Clearer now with the thawed snow and spring rains behind them, the air carries warmth, the scent of moss, damp earth. And blossoms, light lingers long into the evening, spilling across stone and timber, revealing textures smoothed by seasons past. The monk rises before dawn. Breath rises faintly, already warmed by the summer air. Floors are solid beneath measured steps. Manuscripts lie open, edges flattened. Ink reflecting sunlight that streams through high windows. Every movement is deliberate, precise. Attentive, human care continues quietly, persistent, attuned to the rhythms of forest and abbey. Outside, the forest hums with life. Birds sing clearly and frequently. Small mammals forage with confidence, moving beneath dense leaf cover. Moss darkens in shaded areas, roots press beneath soil. Steady, enduring, the abbey exists quietly alongside this abundance, human effort enduring. Natural cycles flourishing with vitality. The abbey bears subtle marks of early summer. Roofs shimmer with morning dew. Timber glows warmly under strong sunlight. Stone edges show moss-softened cracks darkened by rain. Vines climb walls energetically, brushing against stone with gentle persistence. The monk moves carefully through corridors, adjusting manuscripts, brushing debris, and ensuring fragile pages are preserved against sun, moisture, and warmth. Each act is attentive, patient. Deliberate. Meals are simple, eaten slowly. Bread, early greens. Water warmed by fire. Each act becomes quiet meditation. Sustenance observed, care practiced. He listens, streams flowing steadily. Birds calling among dense branches, leaves rustling in gentle summer wind. These subtle sounds mark time, aligning human attention with the rhythm of forest and abbey. Light shifts gradually across scriptorium floors, shadows stretch and dance across manuscripts. timber beams and stone surfaces. Each letter traced, each fold of parchment, each careful repair continues centuries of deliberate effort. Observation itself becomes meditation, preservation, and patience. Every small act links human persistence with the ongoing vitality of nature outside. Small animals move among dense foliage. A fox moves silently along moss-covered paths. Birds flit among branches, calling and feeding. The monk observes quietly. Human effort persists, forest thrives, intertwined yet distinct. Both leave traces, both endure. Neither hurries, both move with rhythm, attention, and care. Evening arrives gently. Light softens, golden across stone and timber, filtering through dense leaves, casting shifting shadows across floors and manuscripts. The forest presses softly against Abbey walls, patient, vibrant, alive. The monk pauses at a window, hands folded, breath steady, thought drifts, manuscripts preserved, stone injuring. Timber weathering sun, wind, frost, snow, and rain, forest renewing steadily. Humans maintaining with careful attention. Night deepens, candles flicker across vellum and timber beams, the abbey rests, manuscripts protected. Outside, streams flow, animals forage, leaves rustle softly in evening air. Human effort continues inside, deliberate, attentive, patient, both endure. Intertwined yet distinct, measured by rhythm, care, and presence.